Hey, what's up everybody? It's Casey here at Sear and Flying Tackle, and today I'm going to show you one of the most long-standing steelhead patterns that I've had in my box. Something that I got excited about seeing on a TV show on Sports Fishing BC, actually, with Mark Penlington. I want to say this was well over 20 years ago. Fly that you might recognize, one that's definitely worth adding to the box. This is the Steelie Nightmare. Alright, so for the Steelie Nightmare, I've got an Aqua Talon, traditional salmon and steelhead hook in a 1/0 in the jaws of my Renzetti vise here. I'm going to take my tying thread, which in this instance is going to be a uni thread in size 6/0, the color black. Use whatever thread you like. I'm a uni thread guy, but a UTC 140 would be a good substitute as well if you prefer tying with the UTC. I'm just going to tie my thread in at the front here, and I'm going to lay down a little bit of a thread base over the return eye loop at the front of the hook here. And when I say return eye loop, to make this loop on this hook, they take the iron, bend it around, and then there's a tapered piece that lays down along the shank there. So I'm just covering that with the tying thread so that these eyes don't slip and rotate, or to help prevent that from happening anyway. So for an eye, I'm going to take a Wapsi painted lead eye in the color red with a black pupil, and I typically do this with a size small or an extra small. You can use a medium as well too. The mediums, they start getting kind of ugly to cast. It's doable, but with a small and an extra small, it's a lot nicer to try and fling around through the air and not have to worry about them cracking you in the back of the skull so bad. So I'm just going to take 2 loops just to hold it in place, and then I'm going to start doing figure 8s to lock down these eyes. So when I say I'm going to do a figure 8, oops, this is how I'm wrapping. And I'll throw the odd wrap in front and behind too. But primarily we want to do the figure 8 wraps going back and forth. Do that till I get tired of doing it, which we're getting there. That should hold everything in real nice. And just to make sure that these things don't move and rotate on me, I like to take crazy glue or even a head cement and glue these in place. This is just Zap-A-Gap brushable super glue. And just a little dab of that on there just to lock everything in. Now I'm going to lay down some thread over the rest of the hook shank. So for the tail on this fly, first thing I'm going to tie in is going to be some hairline UV Krystal flash. And as far as I'm aware, this is the only modification that I'm making to this fly. Originally it was tied with pearl. I'll switch back and forth. I'm not sure that they made UV Krystal flash when I saw this pattern come out, but I really like this in this fly. But if you want to keep it the original old school Steelie Nightmare, then you go with a pearl Krystal flash. I've got a half dozen or so strands, and I'm just going to double them over so that there's a prominent amount of flash in the tail on this fly. Over top of that, we're going to tie in our money maker. It's going to be a Wapsi rabbit zonker in fluorescent pink. And with this, I'm just going to trim a little bit of the hair at the tip of the hide there, just to leave me a nice clean tie-in point. And we're going to tie this in right over top of that Krystal flash. Nice secure wraps to make sure that that tail's not going anywhere. And I don't want to tie this back crazy far. Like if I go back to the barb on this, I'm going to start pushing that tail downwards. I want this to kind of come off the back of the fly straight. So I'm going to stop in front of the barb and not start tying it down the bend. All right, we've got that locked in. We'll trim that to length after. Next material to tie in is going to be some silver UTC Ultra Wire in the size BR or brassy. After that, I'm going to tie in a single official strung schlappen in the color black. I'm going to tie this in by the tip, and I want a little bit of length right off the bat, so I'm not going to tie this in at the very tip. I'm going to work my way back a little bit, and I want to leave this fluff at the base of the feather. I want to work with that. It's got a lot of nice characteristics for this pattern, just giving it a little bit of volume and a lot of movement. It's kind of like really short marabou. Tie that in. And for the body, we're going to use some Wapsi rayon chenille, size medium in the color black. And I'll just pull a little bit of that off of the core to expose it. Tie that in, bring our thread forward, right behind the eyes, and we're going to start wrapping the chenille. Nice uniform side-by-side wraps. Tie that off. Right behind those eyes. And then we're going to take our piece of schlappen here. We're going to palmer that forward, and I'm going to stroke the fibers back as I wind this on. See, now we're getting into that nice fluffy stuff. You got to tease it out a little bit more. But I really like the effect that it gives on this fly. And just like the chenille, we'll tie that off right behind the eyes. And I'm going to fish my way in there with the tips of my scissors to cut that stem real close. Now comes our silver wire. And we're just going to counter rib this hackle so that if a fish bites, or not if, but when a fish bites, if its teeth hit that stem and that stem breaks on that hackle, this will keep that all together. Or if you make a bad cast, which never happens, you don't end up with your hackle just trailing along the back of the fly, along with the tail. Wiggle that through, tease it out a little bit if you have to try and keep that wire from capturing too much of this. It's going to happen a little bit, but we don't want to mat it down too much if we can help it. Take that wire, I'm just going to helicopter that off. Bring that thread forward, make a quick little head. We'll give it a whip finish. Second one for good luck. Trim that thread, and we're going to hit it with another little bit of that glue. Oh, there's a drip going to form on the back there. I don't want to plug that eye. That'll lock everything in. Now, here's a real awesome tip that I got a long time ago before I was going tarpon fishing. Tying a bunch of rabbit-tailed flies, and with a long rabbit tail, not that we're going to keep this long, if you make an ugly cast, a tail like this can foul. And if that thing fouls, it's not going to fish properly. And it's not impossible to catch a fish, but it really, really hampers your chances. So there's nothing more frustrating, I find, than a fly that consistently fouls. It makes it very, very difficult to fish, and I end up chopping them off real quick. If you've got a pattern like this, and you want to prevent that from happening, the best thing that you can possibly do is take some of this brushable Zap-A-Gap and just apply a little bit to the hide at the back of the fly, and we're going to hold that straight back. And what that's going to do is it's going to stiffen up that rabbit strip. And with it being stiff, it's going to pivot further back behind the fly instead of pivoting at the tie-in point, preventing it from wrapping around the hook and fouling. To consistently foul, once this is done, you got to be doing something real special. And I know a guy that works at the shop here that can help you with some casting lessons if that's the case. But one of the best tips that I've ever got in fly tying, so that was one that I definitely wanted to share with you guys. So let's trim this thing down to length. Now, like I always say, I like to leave them a little bit on the longer side. I can always make them shorter on the river than I can. I can't add length to them, or at least I haven't been able to figure out how to do that yet. But there you have a wicked effective steelhead fly that you should definitely add to your box if you haven't tried already. It's a nice quick tie. You can tie it in a variety of colors. I like a purple tail as well, but this is the main fish catcher as far as I'm concerned with this. You can, like, if you've got a color combination that you like white at the front and a pink tail, don't tell anybody. Or, you know, you can play with peaches and orange and let your imagination run wild. There's no rules when it comes to that sort of thing. But if I was only going to tie one, it would be that one right there. So I hope you guys like this video. If you find these videos useful and you like the flies that I'm tying, hit that subscribe button for me. I'd really appreciate that. Hit the like button if you like this video. Share it with your friends. And like always, I'll have all the materials posted in the description below. If you want to grab any of the materials, you can come by the shop. If you've got any questions about the fly, you can give us a call, send us an email, and everything can be purchased online, www.c-run.com. Thanks for watching, everybody.